Thinking that they could
Justin Trudeau is a man on borrowed time. The Canadian Prime Minister is battling record high levels of voter dissatisfaction and resentment from his own Liberal Party. In his 9th year in office, Trudeau is now fighting for political survival. Some reports even suggest that if elections were to be held now, the Liberals may come a distant third. The rumblings in the Liberal camp have grown, with as many as 24 MPs asking for Trudeau to resign, and no later than the 28th of October, giving him very little time. Reports suggest that Liberal MPs even gave the example of Joe Biden and asked Trudeau to make way for someone else. So why has the Liberal Party turned against their leader? They didn't do so even when the party suffered back-to-back electoral upsets in the bastions of Montreal and Toronto. It's because under Trudeau's stewardship, Canada has upended its relationship with India, chose to provide safe haven to those that India considers as terrorists, and has violated all diplomatic conventions over the murder of a Khalistani terrorist named Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So who is Nijjar, and why is he so integral to Trudeau and his political survival? As Trudeau courts the rising Sikh population in Canada, this is the last throw of dice for the besieged Prime Minister. The Sikh community forms 2% of the Canadian population and has been growing in number. It has doubled from 0.9% in 2001 to 2.1% in 2021. With over 3 lakh, Ontario has the largest Sikh community in Canada, followed by British Columbia. As per 2021 data, under 1/3 of Sikhs in Canada are concentrated in the Toronto metropolitan area. As its population has grown, so has the community's political clout. There are now 18 Sikh MPs in the Canadian Parliament. And this explains why Trudeau is bending backwards to accommodate the most extreme separatist views of the Khalistanis. To protect his political interests, Trudeau has risked sovereign relationships, nurtured over decades under successive governments. Probably for the first time ever, India recalled its envoy to Canada after he was named as person of interest by Canadian investigators in Nijjar's murder.
As soon as the Canadian government announced that Sanjay Verma, the Indian High Commissioner to Canada, and 5 of his colleagues were persons of interest, linking them to the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, India reacted sharply to this development. It recalled the 6 diplomats from Canada, but also summoned the charge d'affaires of Canadian High Commission here in Delhi and gave him a dressing down that how Mr. Trudeau is pandering to the vote bank politics. And later, India also expelled 6 of Canadian diplomats here in Delhi.
There are many instances of Trudeau seemingly supporting Khalistani separatists. In 2017, when he attended the Khalsa Day parade, he spoke in front of a Khalistani separatist flag. These events often feature tributes to terrorists and calls for violence against India. The fact that the Canadian PM chose to attend such an event raised a lot of eyebrows. During his trip to India in 2018, his entourage included Jaspal Atwal, who was convicted for an attempt to assassinate Punjabi cabinet minister Malkiyat Singh Sidhu when he was visiting Canada. Atwal was then photographed with Trudeau's then wife Sophie. Fast forward to April this year, the Canadian PM attended a public meeting that saw some pro-Khalistan slogans being raised. In light of the incident, India had summoned Canada's Deputy High Commissioner.
So who was Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and why is he at the center of Trudeau's political game plan? Nijjar was one among India's most wanted terrorists. He was shot dead by two unidentified assailants outside a Gurudwara in Surrey in Canada in June 2023. He was the chief of the banned terror outfit Khalistan Tiger Force, or the KTF. Nijjar was wanted in multiple terror cases in India, including the 2007 bombing in Punjab and the 2009 assassination of Hardeep Singh. He travelled to Canada on a fake passport. In fact, the award of Canadian citizenship to Nijjar is also disputed and controversial. Nijjar symbolized Trudeau's politics, the appeasement of Khalistanis, the blatant rejection of India's repeated requests for extradition of Khalistani terrorists, the June 2024 parade in Brampton, which celebrated the assassination of former Prime Minister of India Indira Gandhi and invoked revenge for the attack, was just one among several brazen Khalistani activities that continued on Canadian soil under Trudeau's watch.
In most of the cases, I feel there is inaction on the Canadian side. In some cases, of course, they have sought some more details or sought some clarifications. And we are quite okay with that because, after all, we have two different legal systems. And if we want their legal system to act on our behalf, we need to give them the information that they wanted. From our perspective, it had gone through a due process, and therefore all the evidences that we had already been presented to them in the 26 extradition cases which we just talked about. But in addition to extradition, there are many arrest requests also painted. And unfortunately, we have not seen much of action from the Canadian authorities in this particular case for almost last 1 decade.
The Nijjar murder probe has been a major thorn in the Indo-Canadian relationship. Not just due to Ottawa's wild allegation about the involvement of India, but because Trudeau's government has done nothing but name-calling. On 18th of June 2023, Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot dead in Vancouver. On 18th of September 2023, Trudeau accused India but failed to furnish any proof. On 19th of October, Canada recalled 41 of its diplomats from India. On 3rd of May 2024, RCMP arrested 3 suspects as part of the Nijjar probe. On 13th of October 2024, Canada labelled Indian diplomats as person of interest. All through these proceedings, Canada did not yield to New Delhi's repeated requests demanding proof for allegations of its alleged involvement in Nijjar's killing. After India recalled its High Commissioner to Canada and summoned the Canadian charge d'affaires in India, Trudeau's testimony to the committee probing foreign interference vindicated New Delhi that there is no proof.
When we tell them, saying, look, you have people openly threatening leaders of India, diplomats of India, sometimes the threat is not just verbal, it's physical. So their answer is freedom of speech. Okay? Now, when Indian journalists make social media comments, if you threaten the Indian High Commissioner, he is supposed to accept it as freedom of speech. But if an Indian journalist says the Canadian High Commissioner walked out of South Block looking very grumpy, it is apparently foreign interference. Now, how, look at the, this is not even, double standards is a very mild word for it. So, look, there is this thing that we will do it differently at home, we will do it differently abroad, we will do it our way, but that doesn't apply to you. So I think these are the larger, I would say, adjustments which have to happen in this changing world.
But this isn't the first time that Canada has targeted Ambassador Verma. Canada has become a sanctuary for Khalistani extremism, going as far back as 1970 when Talvinder Singh Parmar, founder of Babbar Khalsa, migrated to Canada. In 1981, Talvinder Singh Parmar claimed responsibility for the assassination of Lala Jagat Narayan. a known critic of Khalistani terrorist Jarnail Singh Bhindranwala. In 1982, Justin Trudeau's father had refused India's extradition requests. Parmar was also the mastermind of the Air India Kanishk bombing, which killed 329 passengers. Parmar was not tried for the same.
Back in June this year, on the 39th anniversary of the bombing of an Air India flight that killed more than 300 people, Trudeau did not even mention Sikh extremism, even though the accused belonged to separatist groups.
It's unclear whether Khalistanis were just vote bank for Mr. Trudeau or something more, because Hardeep Nijjar's actions were in clear violation of law for which he never faced any commensurate action. From running arms training in Canada to having received the same training in Pakistan, having traveled to Pakistan on fake identities in 2012 and 13, this unmissable connection with Pakistan was something that the Indian authorities kept raising at multiple levels.
Sources suggest Nijjar had made plans to attack Dera Sacha Sauda in 2014, but failed to do so since he could not get a visa to India. His name also figured in the most wanted list handed by the then Punjab Chief Minister Narendra Singh to Trudeau in his 2018 visit to India. The visit garnered attention for Trudeau's desi looks, but failed to address the deepening rift between the two countries.
One thing is that Mr. Trudeau himself has been known to be very close to the Khalistani extremists and terrorists, at least through his political outreach. He has in his close circles, both in cabinet as well as in the parliament, some of his friends who are not very well inclined towards a good Canada-India relation, and certainly not towards a healthy India. He has been, now I'm quoting, I don't want to get into the domestic politics of Canada, but I'm just quoting you what the media reports, the results of the survey. His party is not faring very well in the survey reports, and his own leadership is also threatened within his own party. Now, this is something I have not picked up from any other source, otherwise I will again be called as interfering in the domestic affairs there. So this is something which I have seen in the media published from Canada itself.
Could you tell us a little bit more, and you alluded to this earlier on factionalism which exists within Khalistani sympathizers, number one, and number two, how there is gangland style warfare or battles as it were, which do take place, and that somehow the death of Nijjar may have been involved with that. I mean, it has nothing to do with India. Could you describe to us the nature of this gangland warfare that takes place in parts of Canada?
So first of all, let's understand what is this Khalistani extremism and terrorism originating from Canada. This is a business. This is a business because the money collected through intimidation, through extortion by these Khalistanis, they use it to destabilize India and to have their own lavish lifestyles. So if it is a business, and if I'm trying to break that away, certainly there will be repercussions. And these repercussions are their threats to the Indian diplomats, Indian leaders. Our Prime Minister has been threatened, our Home Minister has been threatened.
You've been threatened.
I have been threatened very recently, just to give you an anecdote, very recently on Holi, so I had 10 heads and I was sort of characterized as Ravan, and then my effigy was burnt as Ravan. There was another poster where people would come and practice their firearms on my face at that poster. So many things have gone on there, which would not happen in a polite, in a society which respects others. So no cognizance of hate crime has been taken by any of the Canadian organizations or parties.
From middling in India's farm laws to protecting Khalistanis in the name of freedom of speech, to speaking in front of the Khalistani separatist flag on Khalsa Day parade in Toronto in 2017, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's brand of politics has caused multiple friction points with India. It remains to be seen how much longer can Trudeau afford to play on the K card.